Hi, and welcome to the second video for the Education 2000 Clinical Experience process. You'll know that you have the correct form downloaded when you see the Madonna EDU 2000 evaluation form at the top. So the first page of the form, it collects the demographic information of the candidate, the cooperating teacher, and the school district grade level subject area. Please make sure this is completed full. And also you check which semester that the clinical experience occurred and the year that it happened. The next page, or the second page, provides an overview of the expectations of the experience. It's really important to note that there are 4 things that we're looking for the candidate to complete, or experiences they're supposed to have in this particular clinical placement. Most of their placement will be observation and kind of getting a feel for the classroom. But in order to evaluate and assess our candidate, we provided 4 areas in which we think they should be able to kind of provide and do and demonstrate their knowledge, skills, attributes, and dispositions on certain areas that are related to the Danielson framework. It's important to note at this time, for this particular assessment in Education 2000 clinical experience, we're using a 3-point rubric. This is the only time in our clinical experiences that we will be using a 3-point rubric. The rest of the rubrics are a 4-point rubric, but the College of Education faculty felt it was very important for candidates to get a feel for the things that they'll be having to demonstrate as they go on in the program, and we wanted to make sure they were getting good targeted feedback. It is our expectation that the candidates get a 2 at minimum in every single one of the components, which is meets with targeted feedback. 1 reflects does not meet. A 3 means they meet that particular element. And we have a detailed rubric describing what each of those mean for the components that we're assessing. So for the 4 components we're assessing. If a candidate does receive a 1, it just means that they will have to meet with the Dean of the College of Education, and they will have to meet with the faculty member and discuss whether or not they need to repeat the experience. So it's very important as the cooperating teacher to provide very specific feedback as to why the candidate earned a 2 or a 3 or a 1 as it relates to the rubric that we've outlined, which should be pretty clear about the expectations for each of those 3 categories of rankings. Again, I want to be clear that it's not the expectation of the College of Education that a quality experience means the candidate gets all 3s. As a matter of fact, we expect them to get 2s with maybe 1 3, and that would be considered a high-level, good quality experience for them, a good start into this experience. Again, a candidate receiving a 1 on any of the components or more than 1 component will need to meet with the dean and the faculty member and have a conversation about continuing to move forward in the program. It's also important to note that the cooperating teacher must provide a whole number rating for each of the 4 components, meaning they have to give a 1, 2, or a 3. They cannot give a score of a 2.5, a 1.5, or 1.75. They must use whole number scoring, and I'll talk in a little bit about how to do that and how to use a preponderance of evidence as your means for providing that whole number scoring. Each of the following pages has 1 component on it, and then the 3 different levels that indicate the performance attributes, knowledge, and disposition demonstrated by the candidate, which would relate to that particular element. So for each of these, what you would do as the cooperating teacher is after the experience is completed, the 30 hours, you would, for this candidate, look at, okay, component 1A, demonstrating knowledge of content and pedagogy. Anytime you see the word the teacher in the rubric, we're actually referring to our candidate or the student teacher or the intern from Madonna University. So did the intern demonstrate accurate understanding of prerequisite relationships among the topics that they were talking about in class or that you talked about in class? When they had the opportunity to plan and practice, it reflected familiarity with a wide range of pedagogical approaches related to the subject. That would be a high level 3. Meets with targeted feedback, or a 2. The teacher indicates, in this case our candidate, indicates some awareness of prerequisite learning, although knowledge may be inaccurate at times or incomplete. The intern plans on and practices a limited range of pedagogical approaches to the discipline to the students. So let's talk about this one for a minute, because remember how I talked about a preponderance of evidence. So let's say, hypothetically, that we are going to examine someone that has some elements of 2 and some elements of 3. So it's highly conceivable at this point that a candidate will have the content knowledge related to meeting the level 3, but they probably won't have the pedagogical skills. And so their pedagogy as it relates to the subject area will be limited. So what would you do in that case? You can't give a 2.5. So what I would do is look at where does a preponderance of the performance lie? So is it that their pedagogical limitations are impacting the students more so in understanding of the content, and it is limiting their kind of ability to explain the content? And if that's the case, then I would give the candidate a 2. If it's that their content knowledge is so deep and they're still somewhat limited, but they're moving beyond limited into developing into more of a wide-ranging repertoire of pedagogical practice as it relates to the subject, then you could give them a level 3. So you would put the score here, 2, the numerical score, and then right here you see, and then you would also then provide comments and feedback, and don't be afraid to use the rubric language in explaining what allowed you to give the candidate, or what provided the examples for you to give that candidate a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 1. It's important for our candidates to get that feedback, know where their areas of strength are so they can build on those, and their areas of challenge so they can kind of continue to refine and understand how that works. And you'll do this for each of the 4 observable areas that we're having throughout. Also know that there is the possibility that the candidate may not be able to demonstrate that particular component. There may not be enough information. At that point, you would give them an NA or an NO, which would be not applicable or not observed. You still want to provide some robust feedback for them so they have something to build off of, but you can still rank a score NA, NO. So you'll see that the next page here, which would be page 4, has a similar piece with component 1.E, with space for comments, and then the score. And then another one, 2A, comments and score. And finally, 4E, again, comments and score. And then at the very end, you'll mark whether or not the candidate successfully met the 30 hours, which we require at minimum for this particular placement. And so with all of that, once the form is completed, you will have the candidate review it and provide electronic signature, a signature on the form. Again, this form needs to be completed electronically, so it can be sent to the university faculty member that's teaching this class. It's much easier for them to get an electronic form. So what I would do is make sure the student is copied or CC'd, even though it's not really a carbon copy, on the form that's being sent back to the faculty member, so that way the student's aware of what they got and they have had that discussion. And you can kind of write down here, the student can say, I agree to and have discussed the evaluation, and they can give their electronic signature in print. So for me it would be Tom Bell, right? So they would do that, and then they would say electronic signature, and then date it, and then you would kind of do the same thing and write that in, so that way both are done. And so the student then has that trail. So logistically, what needs to happen from this point is the form is completed electronically. It is sent to the faculty member for the class who's teaching Education 2000, and then that faculty member will then take the score. They'll talk with the student about any feedback, and then they will enter the data into LiveText, which is our online and database management system for collecting field experience data. So again, the faculty member will get this electronically via email from the cooperating teacher, and then the faculty member teaching the class will enter the data into LiveText. And that is kind of the end of the experience. So with that being said, should you have any questions or need to discuss the evaluation process, the forms, anything like that, please do not hesitate to contact me. My name is Tom Bell. I'm the Director of Accreditation and Assistant Professor here in the College of Education. My email address is thbell@madonna.edu, or you can contact me via phone at 616-560-7292. Thank you so much for taking the time and viewing these videos. We will have more trainings as time persists, particularly in late summer, early fall, to discuss new things that are happening with our clinical experiences. Thank you so much for being a critical part of the preparation of our candidates and being a cooperating teacher or being a faculty member teaching in Education 2000, and to our students, interns who are going out there and being exposed to the field for the first time. Thank you so much.